Well, they said they're going to split us up into teams, so maybe she's already on the other team.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like Urianje and Thancred.
You think they would write it to where we could choose which team we're on? There's two drastically different ways to experience the expansion.
The one time they did that was Eureka, and even that they hedged their bets on with still having Edgico survive.
People were pissed about that. Yeah. And people that's like you're saying like, oh, they did something and it wasn't universally loved. Like, oh yeah.
They also did the different night scene in Endwalker. The person that knocks on your door.
And I think that's what we will see. Yeah, the characterization. You have that Endwalker in Shadowbringers. The person who you did the role quest with will knock on your door, and if you've done multiple role quests, you can choose who you want to show up. So they even have been doing that a while. I would expect that flavor variance for cutscenes. Definitely, I could see that happening.
Okay.
Actual choice that branches the narrative. I'm just going to say personally...
the same time that World of Warcraft is like dissolving the boundary between factions. Final Fantasy is like, I can split the player base into...
I do think that the team thing is more going to be rooted in the because remember they described it as 2 arcs, right? The team thing I think is going to be more to do with the race. It's going to be the ruler, who they want, who's going to end up being the ruler of Durala, because there are 4 candidates, right? And I think that Urianje and Thancred have been hired probably by one of the other candidates. And I think it's just that simple. Could be the Mr Mikote, because he spent time in Charlene. I'm forgetting his name already, but Colona Coana, something like that.
We'll get it. They're on point today.
Yeah. So I think that it's going to be more, because that arc I think is going to be more of the fun arc. I think it's still going to be intense. It's still going to be probably about Wukumat's growth. It's going to be all about those things, because who leads to Tulio Lal does really matter. But then I think the second arc is when things are going to start pivot towards the more solution 90 things, the more like crazy, like it's going to get crazy. Koana, thank you, Infinite. So I don't think the team thing is misleading. I think it's just going to be more. It's not going to be like the Scion's gone evil or something.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there will be some ideological debate coming out of it, though, just because who do you want to rule Tulio Lal? Their stance on things is going to matter. We've got one who's war driven. We've got one who's very scientific driven. We've got one like Wukumat who's coming into her own, is kind of very brash and brazen and native Turalian.
Yeah, what I don't like about that is then it feels like I end up picking a side that I want to have a certain outcome, and then that's not going to be the outcome, because the outcome is predetermined, right? We all have to end with the same final city or whatever. So if one side is claiming right to the throne and the other side is claiming right to the throne, one of them's the winner. Has been how the stories have all worked so far. And so some of the only times that I've been really upset at the story in 14 is when I ethically don't agree with what the Warrior of Light is doing, and there's nothing I can do about it. You could just stop turning in the quests and quit the game, but that's your only option. Otherwise, you have to condone it.
Maybe the problem for me is that I pretty much have agreed all the time, so maybe that is very easy for me to say. I think I also just tend to be more interested in what. If I want a BioWare RPG, I want to go play a game that's from the ground up, is designed and built around choice. Whereas when I'm playing 14, I'm more interested in experiencing it as a narrative, and then maybe coloring some flavor with your dialogue options. As an extreme example, when you talk to Xenos at the end of Endwalker, you can either, if you're someone like me who's like, yeah, I do care about overcoming challenge. I do realize that there is a genuine mirror between me and you, and I may not stand for what you stand for, but I do see that. I can say, that is a truth I cannot deny, or whatever. But you also have dialogue options to say, shut the fuck up, Xenos. I'm taking you down. You're full of shit,
I do think there's a real chance that they split us up, just to split the zone on the loads on the zone. At the beginning of Endwalker, they let us choose if we went out or if we stayed.
Oh, definitely.
Now,
they did that for Shadowbringers.
After I did it once, I do feel that it made more sense to do it in one order over the other.
Yes, 100%.
And I did it in the wrong order, because I went out and fought, and then there was a real threat, and then I went back and I'm prancing around town while the real threat people are like, hey, it's urgent over here. I'm like, yeah, but I gotta prance around Charlene first. So I should have done the city stuff first, because that felt substantially less urgent, but mechanically it was there to split the player base logically.
And they did that with Coluna and Um I'm. Like they did it in Shadowbringers, and in Heaven's Word, you had the Western Highland and the first part of the Sea of Clouds. The only time they didn't is Stormblood.
And what did that cause?
Baby.
Yep. So that's
now.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask a question, but obviously about the first with Norvrandt.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's healing. We've the flood of light, well, at least last I remember was receding. Do you think it's possible that we see some kind of time jump as a part of what does that zone? Imagine like if they were like, hey, a part of the zones that we're going to go to is Norvrandt. Turns out it's opened up here because of the fact that the light is everything's more imbalanced here back on the first.
I think in the past I would have been more like, it seems against kind of how they've done things, but especially with 6.5 and what lengths to which they've gone, not only for the reclamation of the 13th, but to go out of their way to give the Zeramis crystal to Reen to further the effects of Eden. I definitely think that's possible. I don't know what that would mean. I don't know if they would throw in a exploration zone. I feel like you would be more likely to see something like an exploration zone in the empty, in the places that have started to heal. Because I don't know how you do an expansion that goes back to the first that reconciles. Because you still kind of need to keep the maps the same, where like you're not going to get rid of the Flood of Light wall. But the same way that Eden, you can go out into the empty and find the places that have started to heal from the raid. I think they would expound upon that. And I think it would make a lot of sense if, for instance, let's say you had an expansion that was very 13th based, or something like that, then having the exploratory zone for that expansion going into the empty would be very, it would make sense. It would be a very good parallel for that as well. So I think
love to go back and start filling in areas. There's also areas just in Aldenard that we haven't filled in. Like there's, and Ilsabar is wide open. So like there's a ton of places
they got 10 years plus of real estate,
half
easily.
of Vilbrand is unexplored. Like we do, like the northern half of Vilbrand we just never have gone to. We haven't gone to the far reach in Aldenard. We haven't gone to the far southern tip of Thanalin. Like there's so much data. Plus Gelmore variant dungeons of galore are ready to be hit on a lot of that.
I really hope we don't leave the star for a while much at all, because that feels like I just think there's still plenty of the star left to see.
I completely agree.
That I don't really want to just start opening up space exploration and just shift this to being some weird space game.
Hopefully that's what cosmic exploration is going to fill that niche, right?
What do you want cosmic exploration to be?
I don't really care. Make it like some sort of like just some sort of synthesis. I don't, because like I'm going to play it and I'm going to enjoy it. But the thing is, it looks like they're going to, based off of the 2 images they showed in the background of it, which is nothing. But okay, they're going to take what they've learned from things like Ishgard Restoration and the Diadem and some of that, and like make something. And it's like, that's fine, I'm currently working on the Pterodon mount, so my brain's broken when it comes to gathering and collecting anyways, because
I've been seeing a few of those pop up. I've been seeing people that are finishing them.
You're gonna see more, because that's what when it's the downtime between content, that's what people get to.
Yeah, I've been starting to see people finishing up some of the big grind achievements like that. That's one of them, but there are a couple others that are just the result of lots of downtime.
Right. And the one thing we do know about cosmic exploration is that it's going out into the Sea of Stars, right? And the reflections aren't out in the Sea of Stars. The reflections are all like overlaid on each other.
To just the theorists. They didn't triplicate out to every planet.
Right. And it's interesting because I had that hypothesis that was what was the case for a long time, but it was never fully clear. It just was the only way to make sense of any of it. But EE3 effectively, like, I don't want to say confirmed it, because EE3 is always people kind of speculating, but they like pretty heavily emphasize that is what is going on. So like cosmic exploration, I think what's going to happen is you're going to go to maybe the stars that were destroyed by Medion's Song of Oblivion, or it could just be stars that weren't dead, but that. I would definitely expect that kind of thing.
Either we're bringing life back to these, worlds that have been just devastated, or we're finding worlds that actually never were hit by any of the chaos that was going on in the universe. Ultima Thule kind of really, expanded on some of these stories.